We have plenty to discuss here in today's video, including all kinds of offseason trade and free agent speculation. On the trade front today, we're looking at the Toronto Maple Leafs. Lots of discourse within the Maple Leaf media community whether or not they should speak to longtime defenseman Morgan Rielly about waiving his no-move clause to trade the longtime defenseman. Plus, we're taking a look at an Athletic article from James Myrtle outlining the most likely destinations based on their intel on where they think Mitch Marner is going to sign this year as an unrestricted free agent. Plus, we have some updates regarding the Dallas Stars. One update suggests that they may look to trade Jason Robertson, and a team like the Ottawa Senators might be a potential landing spot for him. Plus, is head coach Peter Deboer in trouble? We're going to discuss what we've learned about the fallout between Jake Ottinger and the coach and everything that was kind of handled and said during the Western Conference Final against the Edmonton Oilers. We have some new information as well suggesting other members of the team weren't very happy with that situation. Plus, we have the Memorial Cup completed. We now have a Memorial Cup champion to discuss. We have several signings and a big update as well regarding the 2018 World Junior Trial. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have tons of information to discuss here today, so certainly want to be a video where you pay close attention and kind of lean into what we're saying here, because there's going to be a lot of kind of quick news points to go through. First up, I want to acknowledge longtime NHL player Jesper at the age of 33 has announced his retirement from the NHL. Only appeared in 703 games. This feels like it went by quick. A big part of Fast's decision here, of course, was the fact that he missed all of last season with a pretty serious neck injury. Unfortunately for him, that's going to mean he's going to hang him up probably earlier than he would have liked. Of course, he split his time in the NHL between the New York Rangers and the Carolina Hurricanes. Over 700 games, was a pretty effective player, and we'd like to wish him the best in whatever comes next for him during retirement. Of course, but the Memorial Cup was wrapped up last night as well. Sunday night featured the London Knights against the Medicine Hat Tigers in what was expected to be a pretty epic matchup. The London Knights were in the Memorial Cup final for the second consecutive year. Of course, they lost last year in pretty dramatic fashion, with the Saginaw Spirit scoring a really late goal with mere seconds left on the clock in regulation to take the victory from them. This team certainly felt like they were on a mission for revenge and to write the last chapter of the story in many of their junior careers, and they did just that with London picking up a big win over Medicine Hat last night. Gavin McKenna did try to bring his team back. He scored one goal, thought he had a second goal, which was then eventually waved off, but the London Knights were just too much. They had a really solid second period and just kept coming. They had a lot of great performances. Easton Cowan, the top prospect for the Toronto Maple Leafs, was given the tournament MVP award. He's right up there in London Knights franchise history for, I think he's tied with Mitch Marner now for most points in that tournament. He did play more games though in the tournament, but still pretty elite company that he's with. So Cowan had a really good showing. Of course, team captain and Flyers prospect Denver Barkey had a couple big goals. So he will be wrapping up his junior career here as well. Sam Dickinson, the top prospect for the San Jose Sharks, taken pretty high in last year's first round, had a tremendous tournament in season. Sam Dickinson looks NHL ready to me, so I would be quite surprised if he's not playing for the Sharks. Next year, of course, they've got Oliver Bonk, another great defenseman who will join Barkey in Philadelphia. Haltonen, Julian, Austin Elliott, who's a goalie who went through waivers, originally started in the Western Hockey League, and the Saskatoon Blades couldn't give him away. Put him on waivers, and he completely cleared. Ends up in London, and then I think he won like 52 out of 55 games that he played there. Absolutely ridiculous, insane, crazy run. I'm sure he's going to get opportunities now for either an entry-level contract or to very least get invited to NHL teams' development camps and training camps to see if he can't get signed somewhere, because that was an incredible journey he was on as well. And another player that kind of was a little bit of a surprise this year, but had huge strides in his development, was Senators prospect Blake Montgomery, who was taken in last year's draft, started the year in the USHL, ended up transferring over to London, and under the tutelage of Dale Hunter and his teammates, he really, really took off. Looks like he has real potential to maybe be a like a real decent power forward at the NHL level. So hard to say. It still has more room for growth and development, but had a real nice run there. And there's other prospects too. I'm not doing them all justice here by talking about all of them, but lots of great members of that team as well. The Medicine Hat team was pretty stacked as well, but just could not get much going against London, who were just determined that they were not letting a second straight Memorial Cup slip through their fingers. Now, as I mentioned as well, big update today from the 2018 World Junior Championship Canadian team that has several members on trial right now. We've had a lot that's gone on here in the last couple of weeks. I didn't want to do daily updates on it like some people were doing, because from day to day, there wasn't really always a lot of new updated information. I mean, obviously there was lots of testimony given, but to break that down daily, it seemed like a little bit much. I wanted to wait until we were at a point where there was more to talk about. So the prosecution, they called some of the other teammates. They've already done their testimony. They've gone through everything, and the prosecution has rested. It was now today. In the last couple of days, the defense was doing their witnesses and calling their people on up. The only player who took the stand was Carter Hart. The other players, McLeod, Formanton, Dubé, and Foote, all waived their right to defend themselves on the stand. I assume because obviously if you think about it, I mean, the conversation they could have with their lawyers in questioning is one thing, but, obviously the prosecution could really put the questions to them, which could have a major impact on the case. We don't know how this is going to go. I mean, we already seen earlier this was supposed to be a case by judge and jury, and it's not going to be. The jury ended up being dismissed. They redid the jury once. They called a mistrial, had to redo it, and then the judge had to get rid of the jury a second time because of some stuff going on. So this is going to be by judge only. So it's going to be interesting to see how long this actually takes to render a decision. So the defense ended up calling a few investigators and other people that were involved with the case, but like I said, only one player took the stand in their defense, and that was Carter Hart. So they have now rested their case as well. So this case has now been adjourned for the rest of this week. They will resume, I believe. I'm pretty sure it's next Monday. They go back to start their closing arguments. So early next week, this trial will be done, and then we just have to wait for the judge to render a verdict, and that can be it's hard to say. Like, there's no set defined period of time. Now, when they close all the arguments and the judge speaks before they are finished up, I don't know if she will set like a timeline or anything like that, but that's where things are at, and it hopefully won't be too long before we know a verdict and have an outcome, and can know exactly, get a better idea of what the judge feels, at least what the truth was and what ended up happening, and if any of these players will be facing jail time or what have you. So we'll have more updates, probably not for at least another week, and then after that, once we have a decision, that'll be big news once it comes down. So we'll talk about that further at that time. Many signings here today as well. The Ottawa Senators kicked things off early this morning with the news that they've signed restricted free agent defenseman Tyler Clevin to a 2-year contract extension, 2 years at $1.6 million. To me, that's a great deal for him. He had a great season. Maybe started a little slow, but it got a lot better as the year went along. Ended up being a player who could thrive in the big moments. Looked really good in the playoffs. To me, his best hockey was in the playoffs. He's a big physical defenseman, not really known for being offensive, more of a stay-at-home kind of guy who can lay big hits and defend, and he's been getting a lot better at that. But then he's also had some big moments where he's got a big shot and he scored some big goals for this team as well. So I think that's a great signing. He may end up actually playing an elevated role in the fall if Nick Jensen's going to be missing time. Tyler Clevin is versatile in that sense that he can play the right side, even though he's a left shot defenseman. He did that a lot through college and was pretty effective. So we'll see. Either way, great signing for Ottawa, and Clevin's a a piece of their future is only going to continue to get better. The Minnesota Wild today announced they've signed Marcus Johansson to a one-year extension as well. Of course, the veteran forward put up 34 points last year, gets a one-year deal at $800,000. I don't think you can go too wrong with that. Pretty good deal for Minnesota. Tampa had an interesting signing, announcing that they've come to terms with veteran Yanni Gourde, who's in his second tour of duty with the Lightning after being acquired from the Seattle Kraken at the NHL trade deadline. Signs a 6-year extension. He's going to be 34 when next season gets underway, and he signs a 6-year deal with an AAV of $2.33 million, and he gets a no-trade clause. Put up 32 points total between Seattle and Tampa last year, over 57 games. Of course, missed time due to injury as well. So the production was decent. Playing, he did actually, I think he had like 14 points in 20 games for Tampa, something along those lines. So, he was pretty productive, and it could be a big part of their bottom six like he was when they were winning cups before. He's a player they really didn't want to lose, but when Seattle came in, he was just too interesting of a player for them to pass up. So he will remain with the Lightning likely for the rest of his career. But certainly, like I said, it's a situation where they gave him the term to bring the AAV down, but I don't think they're probably expecting him to finish out the 6 years by the looks of things. And we also had a signing in Seattle as well, and they've announced that they got a one-year deal with a one-way contract for Ben Myers, a league minimum. That's also been confirmed today. We also had a rookie contract here as well today with the Seattle Kraken announcing they've signed Caden Hamill, a 3-year entry-level contract as well. He was a 2023 fifth-round selection, so he's now officially on the books for Seattle. A couple of awards were given out here today. Of course, the NHL has decided to go about things a little bit differently this year. Apparently, there is going to be an award special during the Stanley Cup Final. It's going to be a 1-hour pre-packaged, pre-taped program. Some of the awards we will not know the winners of, but many of them we will. So they're going to hold back probably a couple of the bigger ones. And what they're trying to do is they want to create what Elliotte Friedman referred to as like viral moments. So they're trying to surprise players in unique situations by giving them these awards for the winners. Like we had a video that was released today. Alexander Barkov of the Florida Panthers was recognized for winning the Selke Trophy and the King Clancy Trophy. And of course, he was... they were doing some team stuff with some kids, and they had the kids bring the awards out. So, just some unique type of scenarios that are going to get people's attention. So we're probably going to see a few more videos like that released where players were given awards in kind of unique settings, and it's kind of a surprise type of video. And then there's probably a couple of big ones. I'm not sure which ones exactly, but probably the Hart Trophy, maybe Rookie of the Year, maybe the Vezina. I'm not sure which ones. A couple of the top ones will be held back, and we will only see those videos during that program, which will be probably on one of the off nights during the Stanley Cup Final, which they haven't yet announced. There's also some updates as well in the Boston coaching situation. We know the Boston and the Penguins are the only two teams left that have not named a head coach yet. According to Elliotte Friedman, it's still not quite determined who's getting the job, I believe, between Marco Sturm and Jay Woodcroft. But one name that was in the mix, who's been told he's not going to be getting the job, is former interim head coach, a longtime assistant coach, Joe Sacco. So it doesn't sound like he will be back in Boston. Elliotte wonders if maybe the vacant spot on the Maple Leafs bench with Craig Berube might be a potential landing spot for him. Of course, they lost Lane Lambert, who was their PK coach, who's gone on to become the head coach of the Seattle Kraken. So we'll see what happens in Boston. The belief amongst many of the Boston reporters is that we would find out and have an announcement sometime early this week, but nothing today. In Pittsburgh, same with them. It's still believed to be between DJ Smith and Mitch Love are the two main names we're hearing. But again, we don't know when Kyle Dubas is going to make a decision. There's also some talks between Chris Johnston and Elliotte Friedman. They both talked about it briefly, saying that there is a possibility we could get an announcement on a new CBA between the NHL and the NHLPA. Now, tomorrow, Gary Bettman is going to be speaking like he always does ahead of the Stanley Cup Final, where they do like a state of the league type of address. And I know originally Bettman had said that he had hoped that when he did his address at the Stanley Cup Final, maybe they'd be fortunate enough that he could announce a new CBA at that point. Chris Johnston mentioned that, there's some wondering if it could happen. Elliotte Friedman says he thinks things are progressing well, but he doesn't think they're quite there yet, although it sounds like they're getting close. Sounds like it might not be too far away. and maybe we get it, later in the month or something like that. I'm not sure. But either way, the good news is things are progressing very well. I don't expect an announcement from Gary Bettman on that tomorrow, but maybe they've just done a good job of keeping it quiet. We'll get a better idea from the Bettman himself tomorrow. Now, as I mentioned, all kinds of speculation around the NHL. Before we get into everything as well, a reminder that this week is the NHL Draft Combine in Buffalo. And because of this year's NHL Draft being the decentralized format, this is going to be the only period of time where all of the GMs and all these team staff and executives are all in one place at one time. So if you remember last year at the Stanley Cup Final, during the Stanley Cup Final, which of course, coincides with the Combine being right before it, we had some actual decent amount of activity. There was between off days and before some of the big games between the Panthers and Oilers, we were getting announcements of trades. I can remember the Linus Ullmark trade to Ottawa broke during the Stanley Cup Final. It was shortly before one of the games. I think it was like game 6 or 7. I can't remember which game it was, but so things can happen. So this could be a very busy week as far as a lot of information flying around for rumors and maybe some activity as well. Now, Elliott also said today that he believes that this is going to be the only year for this format of draft, that a lot of people are already realizing that it's a mistake to change the format and that we're probably going back to the original format as early as next season. Personally, I think it's a lot better. It's a better experience for the fan, better experience for the players that are being drafted. And it just, gets them all in one place. I think it just creates a whole better complete setup. Now, we're going to start with Dallas. There are a bunch of rumors out of the Dallas Stars organization, mainly because they were just eliminated. So there's lots of chatter. We know exit interviews are going on. Lots of talk about the Jake Ottinger, Peter Deboer stuff. Now, I've talked about this briefly before. Just kind of gave my opinion on how things were handled. And it's still been a couple days since everything went down here, but I tell you, Jake Ottinger spoke to the media. He spoke for 8 or 9 minutes. He was very well spoken, very professional, very mature, but he did say that he was very embarrassed by that situation. He wasn't going to come out and drop any bombs and call anybody down, but he did say he was embarrassed. There is that, and there's a belief that, there's a lot of other people around the organization that were not happy with how Peter Deboer handled that situation either. It's one thing to pull your goalie after 2 goals and 2 shots, okay? You have the history that he struggled against Edmonton. It's not even so much what he did, it's how he did it. You don't usually see a timeout and a goalie pulled together. They're like 2 different things coaches have in their pockets that they can kind of use at different times to kind of give their team a wake-up call or shake things up if things are not going well. And he calls timeout. Ottinger comes to the bench like everybody else does. They're having their powwow wake-up kind of meeting here. And then Ottinger starts to go back to the net when he gets Peter Deboer calls him out basically in front of the whole building and yanks him. And can you imagine? You could tell he was absolutely pissed. And the worst of it is you could see in Deboer between periods and everything, he went right by Ottinger 2, 3, 4 times, never made eye contact with him, never looked at him, never said boo, not a word. And then he goes to the post-media availability after the game and completely throws him under the bus. It's not even so much that he pulled him, it's how he went about it and kept doubling down. This is your star goaltender who helped get you there, who was signed long-term, and is one of the best goalies in the world at the present time. He's going to be a Dallas Star a heck of a lot longer than you, in my opinion. So I'm not sure what Peter Deboer's thinking here. To me, I think he feels maybe threatened of job security. I don't know what. He has 1 year left on his contract. Now, Elliot Friedman had talked about on his podcast this morning saying that the Dallas Stars have had issues before. Remember when Jim Lights went on a big tirade and really called out Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin? That was a few years ago. I don't know if you remember that, but he publicly just completely shredded those guys for not getting the job done and not elevating this team to greater success. And they get over it. Everybody is still there. So he feels that this team has the ability internally to kind of handle these things, talk it through, and to not necessarily have it blow up and have, a situation where somebody has to leave or something like that. There's no reason at this point to believe that Oettinger has requested a trade. Now, Dave Pagnotta had a little bit more different stuff to say on the situation, saying that he's been told that a lot of the players were unhappy with this situation as well. I mean, Elliott did kind of touch on that as well, that some of the other players weren't thrilled with how it was handled, but Elliott doesn't see Deboer getting fired. He doesn't see Jake Oettinger asking for a trade, and he feels that there's a pretty good chance internally that they're going to be able to resolve things. But Pagnotta, on the other hand, says that, many players had expressed their concerns not only over this situation, but apparently other stuff, how things were handled during the playoffs, specifically in that Western Conference final with Deboer. And again, nobody's saying Deboer's getting canned, but with a year left on his contract, if you get that many players unhappy, I don't know. I kind of wonder, right? You have to think and wonder, is he in trouble? Is there any possibility Deboer, because he was even asked about, is this the best version of this team that you've had in Dallas? And he said no. Like, is he happy with the direction of the team that the GM has given him? They're not as big and heavy as they were. They're a little bit more skilled. Maybe he doesn't believe that that's going to be what it takes to get it done, to get over the hump. I don't know. It just makes you wonder. And there's no concrete evidence here or comments from a reliable enough source to say he's going to get fired or anything of that nature. It just really makes you wonder. Elliott thought that he's not going to be fired. It's probably more of a case of saying, like, listen, Pete, like, you're in the last year of your contract. We're not going to extend you because we do have some concerns, but we want to try to get through this. Before we talk about an extension, we need to get through next season, or at least get through a big chunk of next season, see how things go before we want to evaluate the contract situation. So he could be like a lame duck head coach next season, which is not really a great place to be. So we'll see what happens. Nothing saying for sure he's out or anything like that. I just kind of wonder, with all these comments that we're hearing, could he be in trouble? Let me know what you think in the comments. And staying with Dallas, Jeff Merrick, of course, of the now Daily Faceoff, who has his own show called The Sheet, made some interesting comments on his show and in his latest blog, wondering if the Dallas Stars may trade one of their top forwards in Jason Robertson. Now, Robertson's got 1 year left at 7.75, two-time 40-goal scorer. He's hit 30 goals like once on top of that, and almost a second time. So he's got like 4 years under his belt where he's like basically 30 to 40 goals. Pretty productive guy. Been a big part of that Dallas Stars team. Still 25 years old, has 1 more year left as a restricted free agent after this contract expires, and then he would be UFA. So, obviously the Dallas Stars are a very tight cap situation. They only have like $5 million. They're going to end up having to move out at least either one more prominent player or a bunch of smaller players. They got Matt Duchene that's a UFA, Jamie Benn's a UFA, and notable other players. So, and if they want to have any chance to improve this team, if they don't think it's good enough, they need cap space. So, with Robertson's deal down to 1 year and him probably wanting a decent raise on top of that, I guess, do they want to change their mix? That's kind of where America's at with this, and wondering if that might be something that we could see. He mentions the Ottawa Senators and the Anaheim Ducks as teams to watch should Robertson be on the market. And Rick Dhaliwal, who's also a well-connected reporter out of Vancouver, has also made comments that he's heard Robertson's name is definitely out there. Doesn't mean a deal's going to happen, but when the Dallas Stars are having trade conversations, looking ahead to next year, trying to figure out their cap situation, they are looking at Robertson as a potential piece to move. Now, if we get past July 1 and he's not traded, they can discuss a contract extension, and, well, they could even have some minor discussions now. They can't sign anything, but to get a feel for where his next contract could go, because that'll play a role probably in their decision as well. Looking at the two teams mentioned by Merrick, Ottawa and Anaheim, well, he's a California-born kid, so obviously there might be an appeal for him to play in Anaheim. So there's that. I mean, and the fact that he's 25 years old, he doesn't have trade protection yet. So they technically could move him wherever they want, which is another piece of the puzzle here that makes it easier to do. So with Robertson going to the Ducks, if that were the case, they're an up-and-coming team. California is his home state. it makes sense for them to add a veteran, productive player to play with those young guys. He might be interested, might work out. Ottawa, of course, an up-and-coming team, made the playoffs this year. They definitely would like to add another top six scorer. Robertson fits the bill. They have a lot of righties. He's a lefty, so he kind of fits the description and to a sense of what they're looking for. I'm not sure if he fits it perfectly to a T, but the thing that Ottawa needs to be careful with here is this: if they were to trade for him, for one, I don't know what the package would have to include. So there is that to obviously consider. But let's say they were okay with the trade price. You know, the big thing here is they've traded for two other younger, prominent players here in recent years who did not stay. They traded for Alex DeBrincat. He did not want to sign long-term in Ottawa. So they ended up trading him to the Red Wings where he wanted to go back and play at home. So he did 1 year and was done. They pick up Jacob Chychrun. Now, Chychrun was happy to stay, but they didn't feel he was a good fit. And I think that he kind of sensed that going down the stretch of the season before. And, you know, I think he may have changed his mind about wanting to sign there too. But at the end of the day, you know, most of their team is signed, and they don't need that a third time to happen, right? So without a contract extension, I don't know that Steve Staios is going to want to pull the trigger on that. I mean, I know he did it with Linus Ullmark, and it worked out, but is it going to work out with another player? It's hard to say. I'm not convinced he's the perfect winger for them, but a left shot, top six guy who can give you 30-plus goals is definitely the type of player they are rumored to be in the market for, but depends on the asking price. Like I said, part of me is intrigued by the thought of going there. The Ducks might be an easier situation, though. Kind of hard to say. I would suspect Dallas would probably want something in return that's more combination of players on entry-level contracts or futures, because they need this cap space. So we'll see what happens. But let me know if you think Robertson would be a good fit in Ottawa or Anaheim, or what you think they should do in that case. Now, some Leaf updates here. One, I want to look at Morgan Rielly and Mitch Marner. A lot of talk and discourse within the Maple Leafs media community as well. Many saying that there's no way Rielly's going to be moved, or that he should be. And then there's others that say they should at least explore it. I know Nick Kypreos on his show today with Justin Bourne and Sam McKee were talking about it. And Kypreos is of the belief that they absolutely need to talk to Rielly about waiving, because that's the problem. He's got a no-move clause, so they need his consent to move him. He's been there the longest, which means he's endured the most pain for the playoffs. He's a player that is paid, or at least when he signed the contract, not so much really, because there's a lot of number one defensemen making more than $7.5 million. But he's paid like their top defenseman, and on many teams he's like a number 3. The problem is Rielly's been miscast. A great guy, good leader, and not a horrible defenseman, like especially his puck moving and offensive skills, but he's just not the number one guy. So many people are saying they should probably try to move on from Rielly's salary so that they can go after a true number one. I think I'm of the belief they should as well. I think he's slowed down a bit. I don't think that contract's going to continue to age well. Yeah, the cap's going to go up, and over time it's going to become less of a problem for them. But at the same time, they need to try to win as soon as possible. They might lose Mitch Marner this offseason for nothing. How long is Matthews going to stick around? If they don't win, we don't know, right? Like they do have a finite period of time, I think, to try to win with this group. They've had a lot of these players for 7, 8, 9 years. So it's not going to last forever. They do need to have to try to win here sooner than later before other things are going to change and the team might not be as good as it used to be. You just never know. Maybe they find ways to keep staying in that window, but it's really difficult in a 32-team league. Windows open, windows closed. So if I'm Toronto, I definitely try to explore trading Rielly. Nick Kypreos was saying he thinks they should. But again, he need him to play ball. He needs to accept the fact that maybe it's time for a change. Let me know. Are you going to Rielly if you're Toronto and asking him for this? Let me know what you think in the comments. And Mitch Marner, latest article from James Myrtle of The Athletic, going over the 4, he went through the whole league basically, but the 4 teams that he felt were the most likely that Marner's going to sign with, and 3 of them are West, 1's in the East. The Eastern team is the Carolina Hurricanes, who we know absolutely need to add a superstar. We know the Hurricanes tried trading for Mitch before. We know they've had interest in him dating back to the Don Waddell days a few years back. There was different times, and the last 4 or 5 years at Waddell when he was the manager for the Hurricanes tried to trade for a combination of either Mitch or Willie. Of course, neither of them ever happened, but he definitely was fond of both players. So there is the Hurricanes that make a lot of sense. You get the Utah Hockey Club, now the Utah Mammoth. And Elliot mentioned in his broadcast today, in his podcast, that not so much about Mitch, but just that people are telling him to watch Utah this offseason, that they definitely want to make a big splash. And signing Mitch Marner out of free agency would be a huge splash. So we know they have a lot of money invested. They want to win. That ownership group has a history of doing the same type of things in the NBA side, making big moves. They're going to do it in the NHL too. Marner just might be their target. And he also mentions the LA Kings and the Vegas Golden Knights also being great landing spots with teams that they feel would be prepared to offer Mitch a big salary, max term, and could be good destinations for him to fit in well. Hard to say exactly where he could go. Vegas is in on pretty much all the big names whenever they're out there, so it's kind of hard to say, but I can see a fit possibly in most of those spots. It's, to some degree, he's going to want to weigh lifestyle, salary, opportunities outside the rink for endorsements, and opportunity to win a Stanley Cup. I'm not sure which one of those situations he would rate the highest or the best. I think to some degree he's going to be looking at media attention as well. But let me know, out of the 4 spots that the Athletic feel are the most likely destinations for Marner to sign, which one do you think is the most likely? Notice Toronto not really mentioned. It seems like a pretty foregone conclusion by many that he's 99.9% out the door. So let me know your thoughts on where you think Marner's going to end up, as well as all the other news we discussed here today as well. Down in the comments, we'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.